But when it comes to protesters, we got to make sure we treat all of them the same. Send them to jail. Free speech is great, but hate, free speech is not what we need in these universities, and they don't need to be doing things that they're preaching from Hamas about anti-Semitism.
Nailed it. With these clowns, it's always been free speech for me, but not for thee.
The First Amendment in the Constitution is about free speech, and it's a reason for that, because our founding fathers believed that everybody should have free speech.
The founder of the Oathkeepers, who was alleged to have coordinated this attack, was up here on the Hill making the rounds. I'm wondering how you feel about that.
Was he arrested?
He was convicted on seditious conspiracy charges for 18 years. He was supposed to serve in prison.
He's the one that wasn't up here on Capitol Hill during January 6th?
Yeah, he was accused of coordinating the attack.
Accused of free speech. I don't go by all that.
When it comes to a violent mob of rioters attacking the Capitol on Donald Trump's behalf, let alone a leader of the Oath Keepers militia, it's just free speech. But when it involves protesting the erasure of vital civil rights protections, Tuberville wants to lock them up and ship them out of the country. Now, it must be said, this isn't surprising whatsoever, given what we know about Tuberville's beliefs.
You agree that white nationalists should not be serving in the U.S. military. Is that what you're saying?
If people think that a white nationalist is a racist, I agree with that. I agree they should.
A white nationalist is someone who believes that the white race is superior to other races.
Well, that's some people's opinion. And I don't think, somebody wants to call them white nationalists. To me, is an American. It's an American. Now, if that white nationalist is a racist, I'm totally against anything that they want to do, because I am 110% against racism. But I want somebody that's in our military, that's strong, that believes in this country, that's an American, that will fight along anybody, whether it's a man or woman, black or white, red, it doesn't make any difference. Well, that's just a name that has been given. I mean,
it's not. It's a real definition. There's real concerns about extremism.
So if you're going to do away with most white people in this country out of the military, we got huge problems.
It's not people who are white. It's white nationalists
that have a few probably different beliefs.
Right?
That have different beliefs. Now, if racism is one of those beliefs, I'm totally against it. I am totally against racism.
But
there's a lot of people that believe in different things.
Is racist, Senator?
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion. Some of these people are good, but most of them are garbage. They come from jails and prisons from other countries, and they've known that, and we're going to live in very tough times in years to come because of a lot of these people that have come in here with different agendas other than living in the great country that we live in now. Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that. Bullshit. They are not owed that.
Now that that's out of the way, if you're somehow not familiar with what could very well be a pivotal turning point for the present and future of our country.
Pro-Palestinian activist and legal U.S. resident Mahmoud Khalil, he remains locked away at an ICE detention center in Louisiana. His attorneys argue in court to get him out. So authorities arrested him Saturday. Federal officials, they want him deported out of the country over his allegedly leading last year's protests at Columbia University.
The core here is the First Amendment, that whether or not you agree with what Mr. Khalil was talking about, he has this right to free public speech and to protest. And the greater concern is the wider chilling effect that this could have.
U.S. District Judge Jesse Furman, who temporarily blocked Khalil's deportation earlier this week, extended his order while he considers whether Khalil's arrest was unconstitutional. The government's charging document says the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, has determined that Khalil's presence or activities in the United States would have, quote, serious adverse foreign policy consequences for the United States, unquote. The Trump administration's accused Khalil, without evidence, of being a so-called terrorist sympathizer for participating in Palestinian solidarity protests at Columbia University. In a social media post, President Trump celebrated Khalil's arrest, saying it was the first of many to come. Secretary of State Marco Rubio told reporters Wednesday this is not about free speech. Rubio added, quote, "This is about people who don't have a right to be in the United States to begin with," end quote.
Regardless of whether you agree with Khalil or not, his arrest should terrify everyone in the country currently speaking out against our government's active role in facilitating the destruction of the Palestinian people. Because he hasn't been charged with anything. There have been no criminal charges levied against him. And yet he was arrested and taken to a detention facility at one point where his family and lawyer didn't even know where he was. We're looking at a violation of his First Amendment rights. Free speech is protected by the First Amendment. You don't have to like what somebody says. You don't have to agree with it. And this is what is happening to him? Oh yeah, no. It goes way beyond just what we're doing to the Palestinian people.
You can disagree with his views or his politics, but there is no evidence he has broken any law. In dictatorships, they call this practice being disappeared. No charges, no claims of criminal behavior. The White House doesn't claim he did anything criminal. He's in jail because of his political speech. And here's why everybody should care. In America, your political speech is protected, whether or not the president likes what you say. But today, if you're loyal to Donald Trump, your speech is going to be protected, even if it's hate speech. You can be Marco Ellis, an employee of Doge, who said he, quote, was racist before it was cool, and, quote, normalize Indian hate. And the vice president of the United States will tweet in your defense. But if you are disloyal to Trump, or you're organizing against Trump's political agenda, your speech could be criminalized. You could find yourself in jail. Now, Trump chose to begin by disappearing a Palestinian immigrant, hoping that his place of birth and his immigrant status would just cause people to look the other way. But we cannot. Because once it becomes normal for the regime to disappear people simply for protest against the regime's policies, once a citizen or a resident of America can be locked away with no charges against them simply because they protested, there is no going back for America.
You can literally go out there and promote hate speech and actually engage in hate speech, right? As long as it aligns with Donald Trump's administration and you're protected by it. But in another breath, if you're disloyal against the Trump administration, oh, then we're going to kidnap you. We're going to arrest you, even though you haven't been charged with anything, right? Because the man was arrested for not committing any sort of charge. And then he was taken to a facility in Louisiana, where at one point his lawyer and family did not know where he was. So just like that, they could take him, detain him, and put him in a place where his closest family members and his lawyer don't even know where he is at one point. That's what I really found most compelling, is the hypocrisy, right? There's so much hypocrisy here. And it all starts with who was loyal to the Trump administration. And that's what you see in a dictatorship, as Chris Murphy points out. Now, while some senators and congresspeople have already come out in support of protecting Khalil's civil rights, again, because it's all about free speech, and there's no evidence that, Khalil, was pro-Hamas and that he was promoting Hamas. But unfortunately, there are plenty more people who agree with Tuberville, including this clown.
The Trump administration, are they right on this? Or is this just a purist free speech play, and this man deserves his free speech rights wherever they take us?
They're right. The ACLU is defending Mr. Khalil. They say this is a freedom of speech case. I support freedom of speech. How else would we know who the idiots are without freedom of speech? This case is not about freedom of speech. It's about civilized behavior. It's about national security. It's about terrorism. Mr. Khalil hates America, as you said in your monologue. If you're not happy where you are, move. You're not a tree. Secretary Rubio is going to help him move.
Protesting against our tax dollars being used to facilitate an ethnic cleansing campaign does not mean you support a, quote, terrorist organization, nor does it mean you approve of what said terrorist organization is doing. And conflating the two puts everybody at risk, not just the easy targets. So what that means is, if you have a problem with what our government is doing by supplying all these arms to Israel to wipe out the Palestinian people, you could be at risk of getting arrested. And God knows what they would do to you, right, during the time that you are detained, or that you're put, in Khalil's case, in a detention facility. You're not actually helping the situation at all. What you're doing is just adding more people who are going to be terrified, right, and scared to speak out against what this regime is doing. And it's pretty clear we're living in a authoritarian regime right now. Scary, very scary. Everybody should be on notice, because if you think it ain't gonna happen to you, think again, right? Rebel HQ, I'm Chris Williamson. We'll see you next time.